Welcome, everybody, to the June edition of Beyond the Road, a trucking industry podcast. And I'm happy today to have a couple guests with me. I have Nicole, who is a specialized operations manager, and Jake, who is a heavy haul customer service manager. Can you two give a description on your roles, your history here at ATS?
I've been with ATS for 17 years. Started out in the driver manager position, and then now the last 9 years have been an operations manager, working with the drivers and driver managers.
What does that entail?
Keeping everyone moving, servicing the customers.
Good answer. Jake, how about you?
Hey, Justin, happy to be here.
Oh, great. Glad you're here.
So I have been with ATS for, it's going on about 12 years now. So I was upstairs in the brokerage side covering freight for a while, and then moved to heavy haul. Was doing that customer service, working direct with the customers for like 8 years. And then the last 3 years I've been customer service manager. So that's working more with the CSRs, a little less with the customers, get engaged, when I need to.
What's the role of the CSR? So
the CSR is going to be the direct link between basically the face of ATS to our customers, right? So, dealing with them on a day-to-day basis, entering orders, and then on the flip side, they'll work with Nicole's team here to kind of work in tandem to make sure we, deliver high service.
Okay,
so
good.
Kind of a balancing act.
We have non-heavy haul and heavy haul representation here, and driver side, customer side represented, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Fair to kind of put it in summary that way?
Very well done, yeah.
Good. What's going on in the industry right now for you guys? Do you want to start, Jake? Heavy haul?
Yeah.
What are you seeing out there right now?
Yeah, so, look, historically, we've seen a lot of iron has kind of been our bread and butter. The big construction and ag manufacturers moving, combines to excavators, bulldozers, all sorts of stuff. That's kind of always been the bread and butter that we've seen. But recently we have seen a little bit of a switch. Still probably the skeleton of that makes up heavy haul is the iron. And then before it was a lot of like gas and oil, right? But we've all seen a pretty big pivot away from that in recent times in multiple ways. But so a big thing we've seen on our end is like the battery markets have picked up. We've seen domestic production and import. So the ports have been busy. We've seen, production coming all across the U.S. A lot of it's still based out in the West. California is kind of a hub for a lot of the engineering goes on out there. So naturally there's some production out in that neck of the woods. But by all indications, we're going to see production ramping up in Texas. We're going to see production ramping up out east. And then obviously the ports themselves, right? We're bringing in batteries and stuff from Long Beach, Baltimore, Jacksonville and stuff. So been really good, positive there. It's a market that really didn't exist 5 years ago. So we're excited about that.
Can you dive into that? What specifically are these batteries used for, and why have you seen so much growth?
So obviously, like the electric cars, right? Huge thing. Batteries are able to do more than what they've ever been able to do when we were all kids putting AA's in our remote control cars, right? So batteries have come a long way. And so with that, some of these big players in the industry, they're not new names to anybody, very common names, have all started developing these long storage batteries. So what they'll do is they'll park them outside of like wind sites or solar sites, and those sites directly feed the grid. So we've got all this energy going to the grid real time live. The problem is when the grid doesn't need it, the energy up until recently kind of gets wasted, right? It goes in, but there's no need for it.
And that was one of the big pushbacks on renewable energy to some degree, right? You couldn't harness and store that energy.
Yeah, it's not as efficient. And so what these batteries are doing is they'll plug those kind of as an intermediary between the wind tower and the city. They'll put the battery in there, and then when it goes in to charge the batteries, so it'll feed the grid, but then as soon as the grid doesn't need it, it'll just go to charge those batteries back up. So I'm not a pro in it, but that's a very first grade answer on how it works, but charges the batteries back up.
Yeah, good. So is there any specific about that freight that introduces any challenges that maybe we didn't have? Is the footprint different than the iron you're talking about earlier, or the
No. So they've done a pretty good job thus far. They basically look like a shipping container for the most part. 30 to 40 foot long. It's like a battery, so it's pretty condensed weight. It's heavy. So we're seeing weights, in the 80 to 90,000 pound range, just like your car battery. It's very condensed weight. So we do see that. Dimensionally, they're not big. They're just heavy. They're also expensive. So that's been a unique challenge that everybody's been dealing with.
So you run into that in the contractual phase with the customers as we're trying to onboard them?
We will, right? It's no different than what you see on your data. Look, a gallon of milk used to cost $1.50. Now a gallon of milk costs $3.50. Everything costs more today. So we're seeing that across the board everywhere. Everything, values are inflated. Us and carriers alike are going to have to be dealing with that. There's kind of a new normal there. So we're working through those challenges.
Do you have any kind of volume projections from the industry? Have you gotten any insight to that?
So the industry talks a lot. I can tell you in the wind sector, they talk about like kilowatts added to the grid. And I can't remember the exact figures we saw, but I think it broke down to like 10,000 based on like if a battery is a kilowatt or whatever, it's 10,000 kilowatts. So 10,000 batteries, every battery's a load. So 10,000 loads in a year from now, in 24 we should see throughout the industry. So batteries it's a completely new market that didn't exist 10 years ago. So those are the ones that are always exciting. And it appears it's just going to keep growing. I mean, there's players coming into it all the time. A lot of conversations by multiple industry leaders in electronics that are getting involved in it.
So the overall industry, there's kind of a rule of thumb or conventional logic that exists that vans will kind of lead the industry going into a freight recession and coming out of it.
Yeah.
And then the specialized 5-axle freight will be the next. So, and then heavy haul will follow that, right? So we've seen that in the van industry so far throughout the course of last year. And we started to see it in the specialized industry starting last year, where we start to saw rates start to get depressed.
Yep.
Volumes might be depressed in certain areas, but a lot of that was really tied to just excess capacity in the industry. A bunch of providers added equipment during COVID as rates got out of hand, and volume was churning out at a very high pace. The industry has a good track record of doing that, where it gets busier. Everybody wants to add equipment and take advantage of that. Then there gets too much equipment in the industry, then it dies back down, and then you start to see rates get depressed, and there ends up being too much capacity in the market. So we saw that in vans, kind of towards the bottom in flatbed. Some people are saying we're at the bottom, or we've hit the bottom and are on the way back. Have you started to see that at all? I know batteries are busy, obviously. You just spent some time explaining that, but are you seeing any kind of trend there outside of the batteries that indicates that you guys may be starting to head into the tail end of what vans and specialized has already felt throughout the course of the last 24 months or so?
Yeah, right. So last year we were kind of on pins and needles throughout the year, waiting on that to come.
Because of the historical track
right?
record?
It always does. Heavy haul's we're the ugly duckling that follows the cycle, right? So vans gets hits, flatbed gets hits, and then heavy haul takes it. We haven't seen it. And look, have we seen certain segments drop? Absolutely. We've seen, gas and oil's down. That's no secret. That continues to kind of be historically low, right? It's certainly a 10-year low.
That's a direct, it's the inverse of what we're seeing in the renewable energy, right?
Yeah.
You're only producing energy from so many sources. So if the country's shifting more towards renewables, it's pulling back from oil and gas naturally, right?
Absolutely. So yeah. So basically, I mean, my understanding with a lot of that is there's no new drilling. It's basically they're just in maintain mode. If they're in maintain mode, they're not shipping brand new condensers, compressors, air exchangers out to these sites. They're just only what they have to. So yes, we have seen certain markets like gas and oil see a downturn. We've seen construction ag a little bit down. They kind of operate on their own cycles within themselves, right? They're such a big sector that they're going to have their own ebbs and flows.
They seem to be driven more by the industry markets there as opposed to the transportation markets. Ag is more driven by the crop prices.
Yes,
right? Yeah. As opposed to what the trucking industry is doing.
Yeah, the trucking just gets the benefit or, not, or pay the price.
There's been a lot of years where the trucking industry is down significantly, but ag might be up, and it's helped companies that have a higher density of ag freight in their portfolio because those egg customers might be willing to, give you more money on the stuff they do need to move, because for them, they're busy. They need to move their product.
So, I mean, if we get back to it, look, yeah, so had we not added some new sectors, we definitely would have felt the bite. It kind of hit at the right time where had we not seen the batteries, had we not seen some of this data center stuff come into play, we would have followed the cycle. But we had two similar markets, but they would be different. Markets kind of emerge at when everybody else was starting to go down. So we were able to kind of ride the wave and not really feel it. I think we're going to avoid it as long as those two markets stay humming along. But had it not been for batteries and data center, we would have certainly felt the bite like vans did and flats did.
Are you seeing any trends within the existing commodities that we're doing, whether they're new ones that we're doing like batteries or stuff we've been doing for decades?
Yep.
Any trends with the sizes of the pieces that we're hauling? Are things getting bigger, smaller, heavier, lighter?
No, we're definitely no. I mean, people are willing to push the boundaries, and sometimes we're foolish enough to try it along with them. So yeah, no, stuff's getting bigger. We're doing some stuff now that's 24 foot wide. 10 years ago, I'd have said we're not moving stuff that's 24 foot wide, and we're doing it today. So you're definitely pushing the boundaries on what we thought was possible, or time and cost, effective. That you look, if you give me a year to do a load, it could pay $1 million. It might not be worth doing it still. But no, we've been able to navigate some of those challenges, and yeah, it's been successful. But yeah, stuff's getting bigger all the time. Stuff's getting more expensive. Like I said before, those are probably the two biggest things, and you kind of got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, so to speak. There's times where we will say no.
Yeah. So what does seasonality do for you in heavy haul? When or does it?
No, we get it. The biggest thing for us in heavy haul, we deal with frost a little bit up here in the north. So Minnesota, Michigan, North Dakota, we'll see some of that. As far as the freight's concerned, yeah, construction and ag is typically stronger right at the tail end of Q1. Q2 is also strong. Then we kind of go into the summer lull, so to speak. Winter can be hit or miss. We've got election year coming up, so I think there's a lot of people kind of holding the cards right now until that's all said and done. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah,
is that they're waiting to see which party's in office and how that might impact the tax
what's
considerations
their spend,
on a project
absolutely.
they're embarking on?
Yeah, right. If it goes the way they want it to, that might mean an investment in one thing, or it might mean an investment in something else that maybe isn't heavy haul related or whatever. So yeah, and you have that every 4 years. That's nothing new. But we certainly see that. But
you mentioned frost laws. Can you quickly just explain what those are for listening audience if they're unfamiliar with those and how they impact you guys?
Well, yeah, I can, Justin. But I have done some amazing work doing some very insightful videos that describe frost laws as well. So those are out there.
I'm sure our listening audience will certainly seek those out after.
I can only imagine they would.
Cliff Note version. So I'm dying to hear it.
Yeah, no. Basically, frost laws. Look, you go outside in the springtime. The ground's soft, right? You walk in front yard, you sink in. So the roads are susceptible to damage during those times. So therefore, the states will reduce the allowable weight they allow on the roads during roughly a 6 to 8 week period of time. We don't see it in Florida, obviously, because they don't have frost in the ground. We only see it up in the northern states. The most impacted states are Michigan would be the most restricted, and then Minnesota and North Dakota are about the same as far as restrictive. But the most restrictive you're going to see is in Michigan.
So it sounds like that's a state by state.
Yeah, it's totally state by state. Everybody has their own regulations. Wisconsin actually does have some frost laws too, pretty non-impactful. And look, someone's gonna be listening to this, be like, I got pinched in Montana for that. Absolutely, there are frost laws outside of those three, but those are going to be the three where you really see a noticeable change.
And you don't have as much just commercial travel going through some of those more western-bound states.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of it happening is just fewer.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, good. Great update, Jake. Appreciate that. Nicole, on the non-heavy haul side, what are you seeing out there right now?
This is kind of our time of the year.
Why is that?
Drivers are definitely more flexible in the areas that they'll travel. Kind of going back to what Jake said, right? You're not having to worry about the inclement weather and running into issues going out west or up north. A lot of drivers try to stay south in the winter, and so capacity gets tough. Career path is a huge for a driver, and this time of the year with some of the freight volume picking up a little bit and over-dimensional freight for sure increasing, that helps our drivers and is the freight they're looking to haul. So
How is the overall driver market? I believe in one of our past podcasts, a driver shortage was mentioned, and that's a touchy subject because I don't know that that's the right way to phrase that. As far as there being an overall driver shortage in the marketplace, do you feel there is, or why do you feel, or what would you say would maybe lead some people to say that there is one, if there isn't?
I don't know if I would necessarily say that there is a shortage in drivers. I think more than anything, we're feeling a shortage in freight for the drivers that are out there, right? Going back to those COVID days, there was abundance of freight, and drivers could really pick and choose whatever they wanted to do. Definitely not the case anymore, right? Drivers are not being able to be as picky as they used to be, and it is forcing them to work twice as hard, maybe for the same amount of money or a little less. That poses some challenges, right? I don't think that there's a shortage of drivers, that's for sure.
Do you typically see more turnover in a market like this as opposed to during the COVID years, for example?
Yeah, for sure. I think that in a market like this, turnover is a constant battle. After the first of the year is when we tend to see a spike in turnover. I think things have kind of leveled out a little bit. Thankfully, feels good to not be experiencing as much. But I think in a soft market, no matter what, drivers tend to seek out other opportunities. Grass is always greener.
Yeah. It's I'm sure it's a challenge when driver A maybe had done a decent amount of volume on a certain lane for a period of time at X rate.
Yeah.
And now because of a rate negotiation or pressure from the customer, that rate now is Y.
Yeah.
And it's 10, 20% below what they'd just been doing the same kind of business for. I'm sure that's got to be a tricky proposition to work through with the driver, right?
Yeah, I mean, trying to get them to understand, obviously, the shift in the market and
why the rate got reduced
and what we need to do different to be able to be successful where we're at right now. Because industry-wide, we're all in the same spot, right? I mean, everyone may have their own little niche in what they do. And I think that, we're continuing to dive into some of those things as well. But for sure, battling that and trying to get everyone on the same page has been difficult.
So you guys, I think I picked up that you see, like how Jake mentioned, that your drivers get spread out more during the summer months, right? As there's construction happening in the northern parts of the country, there's drivers that have wanted to be up there when it's 20 below out. They don't want to go tarp or secure a load outside when it's 20 below out in Minnesota in January, right?
For sure, yeah.
But now in June, they'd be more than happy to go there, right?
Yep.
So I'm guessing that leads to some seasonality challenges as far as the network is concerned, where you have a density in one part of the country, one part of the year, and then it kind of disappears and spreads out to other parts of the country. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of going back to some of the stuff Jake talked about too, customers, giving us as much notice as possible on the freight that they're looking to ship, having, driver amenities, bathrooms, places they can park overnight, flexible shipping and receiving hours. That's huge for drivers. It allows us to, push efficiency and pick up and deliver as much as we possibly can.
So those are things a customer could do to help combat that. If you're located in Texas in the winter, you probably have 15 drivers for every load you might have coming out there, just begging and crawling all over themselves to be able to have an opportunity to haul this load. But in June, you might have 5 loads, and
people are spread out a little more.
Weeks, right?
Yep.
How many guys? How often? Like, is it 1 out of 5? Would you say won't come come north of Missouri or something in the winter? What does that look like?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think the opportunities are reduced. First off, that's a good portion of it, because
that could be too. There's probably less freight if you really look at it up north too.
the construction projects aren't breaking ground
That's
or
true.
doing anything there, in the northern half of the country during those times of year.
It does make sense. But I mean, yeah, like do you get some guys who are like, I won't go north of Kansas City until March?
Yeah, you definitely have drivers that are picky in the areas in which they run. I think too, when you think of like hiring areas and where the density is for the drivers
let's
that
talk
are
about that.
out there in the market,
Yeah.
right? They tend to be in a lot of those southern states. I mean, you have some of your Midwestern states as well, but those guys stay south. And
Yeah.
depending on the experience that they come into the industry with, some guys run more regional and local, and then look to be OTR, and they're not as comfortable heading up north that time of the year.
Sure.
And so you're working to acclimate them into our system and how we do things and where we go. So it takes time.
Is there still a trend with over the road drivers trying to find enough of them? I know that regional kind of stay closer to home position has always been a challenge to overcome in the driver recruiting world.
For sure. I think that OTR has changed a lot over the years as well, right? Drivers, when I started 17 years ago only, stayed out for months on end.
So OTR for the listening audience is over the road.
Over the road. Yep. I don't think that you have as many of those drivers in this industry anymore. I think a lot of them have retired and maybe have gone local. So drivers that are coming out to be over the road, they're really looking for that 2 weeks out and then go back in, more of a consistent home time. So in a soft market, it definitely poses challenges because you have to make being over the road worth it. Otherwise, they do tend to try to go seek regional and local opportunities, in hopes that they make close to the same amount of money. I will tell you too, kind of with that whole grass is greener, we've seen a lot of drivers come and go. We've seen tons of rehires because what drivers are being promised isn't accurate. And those local and regional opportunities sometimes don't pan out to be what they tell them it's going to be. And going home every 2 weeks does work once you get out there.
I was going to ask, like how many guys come back, or men and women, but how many drivers come back? Is it?
I don't know if I can give you a specific number.
It's not uncommon though to leave and come back through the door a year later or whatever.
For sure, yeah. And I think obviously the longer that you end up having a driver, if they go, that relationship that they've built is huge, and so they tend to come back because they trust the person they were working with and kind of understand what we have to offer. So
are we still, I know during COVID, obviously supply chain issues were an issue everywhere, right? If you needed a part for something, wait in line.
Yeah.
Are we still experiencing that on the driver maintenance side, truck maintenance side, trailer maintenance side? Do you have any insight into that as far as shop wait times, times in the shop? Are you seeing any change there where drivers are being shut down for longer due to maintenance events?
I feel like the part shortage has come around a little bit. We're not seeing as many, national back order type situations, but I think we're running into more of a tech issue in
supply of personnel.
Yeah, people having the staff that they need. That has posed challenges for sure. There's definitely longer wait times to get in and out of dealers. So that definitely has hurt the drivers and allowing them to be out there making money.
Everybody loses when they break down. It's a lose for the driver. It's a lose for the customer.
When you think, you go back and you talk about, inflation and prices of everything. I mean, their fixed costs haven't changed. If anything, they've only gone up, right?
Yeah,
and so,
it's a good call out because that's something that can be lost in the whole evaluation from a customer standpoint on who to partner with, right? If the maintenance piece seems like icing on the cake, that it's great if you got nice new equipment and everything there, it's nice and shiny, but it doesn't, until you kind of connect the dots, that if it's newer, in better shape, it's going to have less incidences where it needs maintenance while under dispatch of your freight, which in turn is going to lead to less disruptions of your
downtime
freight cycle and your supply chain. And it should allow a customer that partners with carriers or providers that have a better track record with maintenance, newer equipment, better equipment, solutions for that should allow them to be able to enter the market with their product quicker.
For sure. And I think, making sure that we're intentional about the decisions we're making, whether it's having to transload because we aren't able to get a part or, repower the freight to get someone else up and under it if it's a truck issue. All those little things are making significant differences when you're in a soft market like this.
Sure. We do have a couple questions and comments from the audience here that we can cover here before we wrap it up. First one was from a YouTube comment, and it was I'm going to leave the name out of it just for privacy, but it was an individual let it off saying, "Am I making the wrong move? Getting into this industry. I was looking to buy an existing company with a 26-foot box truck. Been watching a lot of videos, and the industry isn't doing well. Please advise. Thank you in advance." I can start this off. You guys can add in as you see fit, but I would say that any comments that this individual might have listened to in any recent podcasts talking about the industry being down, that's all relative to previous times of the industry. And I would lean into the fact that, historically and even today in what I would consider a down market, I've been here 17 years, so I've seen a number of cycles. You can still make a very good living being an over-the-road truck driver, there's a lot of opportunity. It definitely takes the right personality because you're sacrificing some home time and stuff like that. But if you want to see the world and you want to be challenged and you want to just be involved in keeping the country moving, being a truck driver is absolutely still a great career. Nicole, can you expand on that or
I mean, I would agree with you. I think that, like you said, if you're someone that is comfortable or used to being away from the house and you're a go-getter, there's no reason you can't be successful out here. And make
a
good
very
living
healthy
for sure.
income.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, we have we received an email from a Gene L. For Jake, heavy haul question, and he was just wondering why heavy hauls take so long to load and to move across the country. Do you have any insight into that?
Well, as far as loading goes, there's a lot of variables that come into play, right? There's at times where we'll have to literally assemble the trailer on site. A driver might come in.
You have multiple pieces of the trailer?
Multiple pieces of the trailer. Operate. The reason we would do that is for cost. So when we deal with heavy haul, we're always talking permits and then at times escorts. Not the ones in Vegas, but the guys with the little strobe lights on top of the cars. And so at times we'll have the trailer decked up, like wheels on top of the deck. And so we'll have to disassemble the trailer completely, unstack it, repin everything together, and get it set up to load. That's one case that does happen. And then a lot of times in heavy haul, we're moving stuff that's not that flatbeds isn't either, but some of the stuff is like one-off, never designed to be moved down the road. No one thought of lifting lugs or any of this goofy stuff. So it's kind of like when you show up, we gotta. You
don't know exactly what you're getting into until you get there,
right? And we where the weight's going to balance out. If we're maxing out a trailer, that CG, the center of gravity, needs to really line up on the right spot. So we might have to pick it a time or two to get that to balance out on all his on his axle groupings and stuff. So that's a thing. A lot of securement. So yeah, look, there's a multitude of things that cause it to be a very timely process. Now that's not to say everybody. Look, someone who's shipping out. A manufacturer is shipping out 20 widgets a day that are all huge. Those guys are pretty quick, but 9 out of 10 times they're going to a site that they make 10 of these a year. So the guys who are assisting are doing their best, but no one's a professional aside from the driver as to how best to load this. So he generally becomes kind of the pseudo PM there for the day and orchestrating where he wants the crane and how to set it and that. So
is there anything the customer can do to help expedite that process?
Yes. So if you're, to the shippers out there, if you can provide drawings or photos ahead of time A lot of times we'll Google map it. Look, with technology today, we can see what it looks like, and we're making assumptions based off of Google. So if you know that, well, actually they put in a giant building next to mine now, but it's not on Google, calling that stuff out. Look, we're coming in, we're going to be 120, 150 feet long. These things don't turn around on a dime. So calling out those concerns ahead of time, and then it's on, your person who you're dealing with on the phone or via email to vet it based on that. But yeah, look, calling out the site size that you have, and then drawings and photos are huge. Look, we're going to scheme behind the scenes, come up with lashing plans, that sort of thing. And then, hopefully the better prepared we can make the driver on the front side, it's going to be, everything's just going to go smoother. So let's answer those questions before we arrive. If we can do that, it'll go quicker.
Okay, we got one more question sent in here from a Lyle J. This one's for Nicole. And
they email in.
Yeah. We've had a lot.
Kind of them.
We got two fans. Well, shout out to Lyle J and Gene L.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lyle J and Gene L, for those questions. We appreciate your dedicated listenership. So keep it coming and spread the word to your friends. But Lyle wanted to know, in a down market like this, operationally, what kind of things do you guys focus on? If rates are down a little bit, what are the areas you guys can focus on to just keep things moving a little bit better?
I think some of the main things that everyone has had to dial in on are kind of going back to the basics. Really helping drivers, whether it's understanding or just putting them in a position to be successful, their hours of service, right? Helping them manage or maximizing their hours of service. And that's on us too, to ensure that we're getting them all the information they need when they're showing up, so we're not wasting any time once we start our clock. But those efficient dispatches and ensuring that we're picking up and delivering as quick as we safely can. So those are huge. Being as proactive as we can, kind of like you had said, and getting all the information ahead of time. So the more stuff the customers can provide up front, so we can prepare and send them in with everything they need once they get there, the better.
And any flexibility certainly goes a long way in these kind of markets too. When you're trying to sometimes create a plan that might not be an organic, the easiest one there. Any flexibility we have allows us to maximize resources for sure. Okay, great. This is good conversation, guys. You guys have anything you wanted to leave the listening audience with as we depart?
No, this was fun. Thanks for having us on, Justin.
Yeah, great conversation. Appreciate you guys' time. All right, that concludes our June edition of Beyond the Road, a trucking industry podcast. If you like what you heard, please visit atsinc.com and check out our Learning Hub, and you can see more content out there related to this and other trucking industry items. And as always, if you like what you heard, in addition to that, please subscribe, and you'll see this moving forward, and we'll see you next month.